Administration is constantly poking Russia in order to potentially provoke a war. Start with this first article that I found on gatewaypundit.com. Biden promises widespread human suffering in the wake of a Russia invasion. And let me just pause right there before I expand. Any war would bring massive amounts of suffering, but I digress. The article goes on to state this, and I quote, President Biden was clear that if Russia undertakes a further invasion of Ukraine, the U.S., together with our allies and partners, will respond decisively and impose swift and severe cost on Russia. President Biden reiterated that a further Russian invasion of Ukraine would produce widespread human suffering and diminish Russia's standing. President Biden was clear that while the U.S. remains prepared to engage in diplomacy in full coordination with our allies and partners, we are equally prepared for other scenarios, the readout said. Not only that, but here in the U.S., some of our, U.S. personnel or those who are in the Biden's administration circle are now telling us that a war could break out any day, maybe even by Wednesday, between Russia and Ukraine. Take a look at this article here on USA Today. U.S. says Russia could invade any day now. Ukraine formally asked about troop buildup, and here's what we know. The article goes on to state that Biden's top national security aide warned again on Sunday that the Russian military has the capacity to invade Ukraine this week, under that pretext of a false flag operation portraying Ukrainians as the aggressors. Quote, the way they have built up their forces, the way they have maneuvered things in places, makes it a distinct possibility that there will be a major action very, very soon. National Security Advisor and warmonger, I added that part, Jake Sullivan said during an interview on CNN's State of the Union. Not only do we have Jake Sullivan here in the United States warning of a potential war between the two countries, or between Ukraine and Russia within this week, but also take a look at this dailymail.co.uk article, and this says here, U.S. Embassy in Kiev is to be evacuated as Russia mobilizes for invasion of Ukraine on Wednesday. Biden will phone Putin from Camp David at 11 o'clock in a last-ditch effort to avoid war. It goes on. Russia could launch an attack on Ukraine as early as next Wednesday, February 16th, according to respected German publicator Der Spiegel. American intelligence services briefed NATO allies of a possible impending Russian invasion against its western neighbor in a series of secret briefings. The Secret Service and even the CIA and the Pentagon are all said to have received credible information that was passed along to the federal government, reports the German newspaper. The data was said to be exceptionally detailed with information stating specific routes that might be taken by individual Russian units and what roles they might play in that conflict. Despite, there's a little disclaimer here, the detail contained in the plan, it is impossible to know for sure whether an attack is indeed imminent. In other words, they're reporting that it could come as soon as Wednesday, but they're not sure. Okay, I got this. Sounds like a lot of warmongering going on. Sounds like a lot of talk of war. It sounds like there's a lot of provoking. But what would be the reason for something like that? And I can't wait to show you a clip by Nancy Pelosi that might just hit at why. But before I do, I want to bring up one important point here. Over in Ukraine, Ukrainians' leader is asking, what the hell is going on? Take a look at this Breitbart News article. Ukraine's leader asked for evidence on new invasion warnings. Where's the evidence? Show me the proof. What are you talking about? Because I don't know anything about an invasion. And here's what he says, and I quote, we understand all the risks. We understand that there are risks, he said in a live broadcast. If you or anyone else has additional information regarding a 100% Russia invasion starting on the 16th, please forward that information to us. So here we have the leader of Ukraine literally saying, where is the evidence for that? Can somebody please show me? Here's another report on Breitbart News. Ukraine, Zelensky says no information on imminent Russian war. Tells Joe Biden, why don't you come on over here? Come to our country. Ukrainian President Zelensky invited his American counterpart, Joe Biden, to Kiev to see for himself the absence of any imminent threat of war in a conversation on Sunday after telling reporters, officials in his country, that there was no evidence to support the panic in the White House about an alleged imminent Russian invasion. The Biden administration and the president personally have spent much of the years predicting that the government of Russia, Vladimir Putin, has decided to invade and colonize the entire nation of Ukraine, citing the presence of Russian troops on Ukraine's eastern border. Russia already invaded and colonized a sizable portion of Ukraine in 2014 when Biden was VP, and has continued to colonize Ukraine's Crimea region uninterrupted since then. Interesting. So here we have Zelensky saying, can I have some evidence, please? I don't know what's going on. You're saying there's going to be a war on Wednesday or like sometime this week and widespread disaster. Can you, I need something. I need something. Lots of war going on. But here's a kicker. Nancy Pelosi appeared in an ABC News this week. In her interview, she was asked about what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, and she has a very peculiar answer. I'm going to play the clip for you first. Take a listen to it.
Yeah, the White House is warning of an imminent invasion of Ukraine. The Ukrainians seem to think that that's all hype. Do you believe that Putin is poised to invade?
Well, I think we have to be prepared for it, and that is what the president is. Yes, I do believe that he's prepared for an invasion. I also understand why the president of Ukraine wants to keep people calm and that he wants his economy not to suffer. But on the other hand, if we were not threatening the sanctions and the rest, it would guarantee that Putin would invade. Let's hope that diplomacy works. It's about diplomacy deterrence. Diplomacy deterrence, and the president has made it very clear. There's a big price to pay for Russia to go there. So if Russia doesn't invade, it's not that he never intended to. It's just that the sanctions
Are you
work.
convinced that...
So Nancy Pelosi says something very critical there, right? She says this. She says, well, if it wasn't for the Biden administration putting down life-threatening sanctions on Russia, then Russia would have already invaded. So therefore, she says, if Russia doesn't invade, it won't be because of anything other than the fact that Joe Biden put sanctions on Russia. Thereby, if there is no war between Russia and Ukraine, Biden is the savior. That's what she said. So in other words, is this kind of a game plan? I'm just asking the question to where she and the Democrats are bolstering up this war between Russia and Ukraine and poking the Russian bear in order to make Biden look good amid his failing numbers. He failed in Afghanistan. He failed on the COVID crisis. He's failing in the economy. He's failing in the supply chain crisis. Everything is going to crap, and the midterm elections are on the line. So let's find a way to make Biden look good, because if there is no war, give an attaboy pat on the back. She's very proud of the work that Joe Biden has done stopping a war, by the way, where Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, is like, I don't see what's going on here. Is there a deeper plan here? Is there more to the story? Is this why we're hearing constant talk and rhetoric of war? And meanwhile, here's what Putin had to say in response, if you will. Take a look at this article on The Sun. Armed and ready, Putin doesn't give an S-H-I-T, S-word, about sanctions, said the ambassador, as Russia moves attack helicopters to the Ukraine border. In other words, it doesn't have to do with Joe Biden at all. What?